Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you joining today's October webinar. We're going to talk about some of the many features that are included in the Enterprise Edition of Bullhorn. And let me just change my slide here for us. Here we go. I want to show you what we'll be covering. We're going to start by reviewing Net Promoter Score. That's our survey tool, or you'll hear me refer to it as NPS. From there, we'll also talk about merge PDF, and then lastly, we'll talk about how to use goals and quotas. And I'm going to provide a demonstration for each of these features today. I'll cover the general use cases and best practices for each one. And as always, following the webinar, we'll be sending documentation related to each topic discussed in the webinar, along with that recording. As a reminder, most everything in this webinar is included in Bullhorn's Enterprise Edition. So if you happen to be in another edition, maybe in team or corporate, don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager if you're interested in hearing anything more about the Enterprise Edition. And so with that out of the way, let's get into our first topic, Net Promoter Score. Again, you'll hear me refer to this as NPS. So NPS, this is a feature that happens to be available if you're in the corporate edition as well. But with NPS, we can get the most out of it by using Pulse, and Pulse happens to be an enterprise feature. Net Promoter Score, NPS for short. This is a tool. It's going to help you measure your client satisfaction. It emails surveys to your contacts that you do business with. The survey is comprised of one question, and it usually comes in some variation of this question that you see here on the screen. How likely is it that you would recommend, whatever the name of your company or brand is, to a friend or colleague? Now, as we see displayed on the screen, whatever that form of the question is you ask, your contacts are going to answer it on a scale of 1 to 10. As you look at this scale, 1 over here on the left in the red, that means they're not likely at all to refer you to a friend or colleague. Where on the other end of that spectrum, where you see the 10, if you get a score of a 10, then yes, they're extremely likely to refer you to a friend or colleague. Now, let's look at the breakdown. Any score between a 0 and a 6, if you receive a score of a 0 to a 6, we call that type of individual a detractor. And a detractor means they are not happy with service. Again, they are not going to refer you. If you get a score of a 7 or 8, we call that type of contact passive. And it means that they're satisfied, things are good, but they're probably not loyal to you. What we're really striving for are those scores of a 9 or 10. The contacts that give you that score of 9 or 10, that means they are very satisfied with your business, and they absolutely are going to recommend you to a friend or colleague. Now, when you have enough data collected, you're going to be able to find your NPS score by subtracting the percentage of detractors from the percentage of promoters. Good news is you don't really have to figure that out yourself. Bullhorn will do the math for you. And how about if we get into Bullhorn, and I'm going to show you how you can manage NPS. So just a second here, and you'll see it appear. You'll see Bullhorn on your screen. All right, you should see it now. I've already opened my menu, and down under the Home tab, I'm going to choose NPS responses. And it will take just a second here to load my list. And as this list is loading, just like any list in Bullhorn, I can make sure our survey is configured. We'll take care of that. It's just a matter of, at the very top, you see where it says Edit Survey. I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit Survey. As you're looking at mine, this one's already set up, but I do want to make sure that you are comfortable with these fields. So of course, in the subject line, mine says, tell us how we're doing. You can give that email any subject and body that you want. You can also choose who the email is going to come from. You'll notice in mine, I have mine set to Acme Staffing because I don't want it to come from me particularly. I want it to come from my organization, but I also have the option, I could switch it to the owner. Now, if I did select owner, that means the email is going to appear as if it's coming from whoever is the owner of that contact record in Bullhorn. Regardless, the email is going to be sent, and you see directly below it where it says reply to email. My reply to email is set up so I have it as a no reply. I don't want people responding to the survey. All I want is for them to take the survey. I'm also going to leave my frequency set to quarterly, but as you can see, you can change it. Actually, I am going to change mine to annually based on some information I have in here. Now, the question can be customized. As you see, I have it over here, the question, how likely are you to recommend Acme Staffing to a friend or colleague? You can customize the question, but you want to make sure that it's still some form of what you see here. And then lastly, we also have a field where we can add our company logo. If you are putting a company logo, it does need to be an image that's hosted somewhere on the web. And what's entered here in this field, it needs to be a direct link to the image. Now, most importantly, if we look to the top of this window where it says send NPS surveys, I do want to make sure that I have it turned on. And when you turn it on, that actually doesn't mean that it's sending the survey just because it's on. We'll talk about when it's sent. We'll talk about that shortly. But the next thing I'd like to do is be able to show you what the email looks like. So down in my bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and click on the preview button. This is what our contacts that we enroll in receiving a survey, this is what they see. These buttons don't work on the preview, so it doesn't really matter where I click on the screen. But imagine when they receive the survey, they'll click on the number, they'll give us a score, and then I also want to mention down below in the small fine print, it says don't want to see this again, there is the option to unsubscribe. It has to be there. You can't take that away. They do have that option. All right, now let's look at how we go about enrolling our contacts. That's going to be done from our contact list. So I'll go into my menu and select my contacts. Just like my other list, it'll take just a second here to load. I want to make sure I don't have any filters on my list. It does not appear that I do. I'm going to select just a couple of records that I have here. I'll actually choose my first 3 contacts that I see in my list. Now that I have them highlighted, I'm going to click on the blue selected button in the upper right-hand corner. And when I click on it, as I scroll through, you'll see I have the option to enroll and send NPS. Now I want to just touch on this message. It says the action will enroll 1 record in NPS. I selected 3 records. The reason why it's saying that it'll enroll 1, which I'm going to go ahead and click enroll. The reason it says 1 is that 2 out of the 3 users I selected, 2 of them were already enrolled. So it was just grabbing that 3rd one that hadn't been enrolled at that point. All right, so I've enrolled all of these contacts. I'm going to look at Jerry, the first contact in my list, and on the far left, I'm going to click on the binocular icon. When I click on that binocular icon, I receive that preview slide out on the far right of my screen. I want to make sure I'm on the Details tab. And on the Details tab, I have my pulse cards over on the right where it says Add Card. When we're sending the NPS surveys, it's determined by the Pulse Engagement Summary Card, the one that I have in my view right now. As we're looking at the card, which this card is only available as an enterprise feature, as I had mentioned earlier, you'll notice on this engagement summary card, down on the bottom section where it says recommended communication, once we have enough data to determine the best time and the best date to email that contact, so in my case, it looks like it's Tuesdays at 6 a.m., that's when the email will be sent. Now, you'll receive an article after this webinar, and it will provide you the information regarding this card. You'll be able to see how this information is actually calculated. If I happen to be looking at this engagement summary card on a contact and I don't have a specific date and time as recommended communication, in that case, that means the survey will be sent to the contact at 10 a.m. Eastern Time the day after you enroll them. It's really as simple as that. All right, I am going to go back to my NPS responses list. Let me close the preview of that email and we'll close our editing of the survey. Now I'm back on my list. On this list, we can track our NPS responses in the same area that we've configured this survey. So the NPS score and the comments field, I notice I have my NPS score column right in front of me. I also notice a few columns over, I see the comments. I'm actually going to click drag and drop my comments right next to my score. It's nice to have that, I think, lined up right next to each other. You can, of course, like you can in any other list, you can pick and choose your columns. You might want to remove any unnecessary columns. Really, the purpose here is for me to see who my contact is, what the score is that they've given me, and of course, I want to take advantage of any of the comments that they've shared with me. I can even filter. Maybe right now I want to focus on everyone that's given me the score of a 10. Just as a quick example, I can filter down my list and take action on these handful of individuals. Not only do you have this list view, but we also have a Net Promoter Score dashboard card, and it compiles all of that NPS data for you. Now, I do have to say again, that dashboard card, it's available for the Enterprise Edition. Let me show it to you. I'm going to go back into my menu, and I'm going to open my dashboard. And I happen to have my Net Promoter Score. It's already loaded for me right in front. And when I'm looking at the card, I can see the graph that goes across the top. I can see the time frames below. Just as an example, I know this was a while ago, but if I look back to the quarter for April through June 2016, you notice how as I hover over these points, I have the ability to click on it, and then actually let me expand the card, make it a little bit bigger. When I scroll down, now that I've highlighted that particular time frame, I'm able to scroll down and I can actually see all of the detail. I can see who my contact is, what company they work for, and the score that they've given me. So that is NPS. The next feature that I would like to share with you is what we refer to as Merge PDF. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint slides just for a second. You'll see them here just momentarily. Bear with me here. Here we go. All right, so Again, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about merging PDF. Sorry, hold on. Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm not that you want to see my face. I want to get back to the right slide for you. You'll see it here in just a second. You'll see it properly. Here we go. Here's what I want you to see. As far as the merge PDFs, I think this is pretty simple compared to our Net Promoter Score. And as it sounds, it's going to allow you to quickly combine multiple files into one PDF directly. And you can do this right from within Bullhorn. Now, there's a few reasons why you might choose to do this. Maybe you're trying to prep hiring packets or pre-hire paperwork, really anything that you want to combine into one PDF. It's helpful to do this. I think we would probably all agree that it's more convenient to send one file instead of multiple files, especially if I'm sending them out to the contact. I want to show you how to do this. So bear with me here. We're going to go right back into Bullhorn, right where we left off before. Here we are. To make it easy, I'm going to go over to this long gray panel on the far left down in the bottom corner. I'm going to close all my tabs. Let's start fresh. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use my fast find, and I need to locate one of my candidates, and her name happens to be Tori Green. So I'm going to go ahead and open Tori's record. I know there's a Files tab. I can see at this high-level view, I can see there's three files, but I actually don't need to go into the Files tab to be able to create a merge PDF. As I'm on this record, all I really need to do is click on the Select an Action in the upper right-hand corner, and from here, I have the option to create merged PDF. So let me go ahead and select that. It'll load for me here just in a second. Here we go. So on the screen, I have a couple of options. I can either merge files that exist already on her record, or I also have the option if I want to browse for new files that I want to upload. For my example, everything I need is already on the record. So I have the ability to choose those. You see where it says add file from record? If I go ahead and I'm going to put my cursor in there, and I know what I'm looking for actually as I start to type it, there's some of the options that I'm looking for. And I know I want Tori's resume. I'm going to grab that one right down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to grab another document. I'm going to start typing for it. I also want to include the references, and then I also know I have a cover letter, and there it is, and I'm going to go ahead and grab that one as well. Once I have all of the files added, these actually might not be in the order that I want. So I do have the ability, just by clicking on the dots to the left of each, I actually want the cover letter to be first in that document. I want the cover letter and then the resume, or actually I'm going to put the references right before. So now I've got it in this order. I've rearranged it the way that I like. Over here on the right where it says the file name, by default, the file name is the candidate's last name. It's followed by the merge doc. You can change that if you wanted. Also, do you see below where the candidate is selected? If I were to uncheck that box, then I'll be prompted to download the file locally to my computer. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and keep that checked. And then finally, I have the ability where it says optimize the file size. I could do that if I wanted as well. I've got it organized the way I want. I'm going to go ahead down in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm just going to go ahead, save, and close it. Now, as soon as I've got that done, I'm back on my candidate's record. I'm going to quickly refresh. I notice in the Files tab, it went from 3 to 4. I go ahead and select on the Files tab, and I just want you to be able to see There it is. There's my merged document. All right, I have one more thing that I want to be able to share with you. So bear with me here for just a second. One more time, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint slides. I'll make sure that you can see them properly without my face in front of them again. The last thing that I want to be able to share with you today are goals and quotas. And we use goals and quotas as a way to track the performance of our teams, and they can be configured by your Bullhorn administrators. Now, when we focus on goals, goals are intended for recruiters, and they track actions that are taken or that should be taken in Bullhorn. We can tie goals to notes, appointments, maybe even the number of records that are being added into the system. When we talk about quotas, quotas on the other hand, those are intended for salespeople. They help track revenue generated. Now, these are tied to the opportunity records in Bullhorn. So one more time, let me log back into Bullhorn and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Once I'm back in Bullhorn and you see it here on my screen, I'm going to come down in that bottom left-hand corner. Again, I want to start fresh. We'll close all the tabs. To find goals and quotas, I'm going to click on my menu, and under the Home tab, you'll see it. It'll say Goals and Quotas. It's going to load a list. In just a moment, we'll have it here. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll notice there's a blue button that says Add Goal. Let me go ahead and click on that. When you're adding a goal, you have the option. You can choose the frequency, whether it's weekly or monthly. And then you can also choose what the activity is. As an example, I'm going to choose today cold calls. And so I have a user on my team, Jesse, and I need to set this goal for Jesse. Jesse needs to be able to document 10 cold calls a week. Now, if I had other users, I could continue to add users even if they had a different goal. I could also add other weekly goals by choosing different activities. Once I've got it set up, I just go ahead and save. Jesse already has that particular goal. Well, we'll make this easy. We'll find a different one. How about if we say candidates added? There we go. So now I've added that goal for Jesse. It makes it easy for me as I'm looking at this goals and quotas list. No different than any other list. I can pick and choose my columns. I can filter my list and focus on a particular activity or particular individuals. That's up to me. All right, the next thing that I want to be able to show you is I'm going to, I want to filter this actually. Bear with me here for just a moment. I'm going to move over to the quotas. You'll see this over at the far left-hand corner. Let me go ahead and click on the quotas. A little bit different, as we talked about, than the goals. Quotas track revenue generation. So you'll see in the upper right-hand corner again that I have the ability to add a quota. I can pick whatever quarter it may be for and the year, and then I have the ability to choose the user, just like I had done before. And then I have the ability to add whatever that dollar amount is that I want them to generate. I'll just put 50,000, and then I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I have the ability to toggle back and forth between my goals and my quotas to see how these individuals are reaching their goals. The last thing I quickly want to show you is that you'll notice there's this button in the upper right-hand corner that says Settings. And if I click on the settings, this is how I can configure them. Right now, I happen to be on the sales quotas. These are the steps within an opportunity. When I put my cursor in that field, here they are, each of the steps, I can determine which step of an opportunity is one that should generate revenue. I have a few already selected. So if Jesse, the user on my team, is documenting any of these steps on an opportunity, that will go towards his quota. If I click on the activity goals, I see all of these custom activities that I've already set up. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. Initially, I had tried to set up the cold calls. You see that goal here. Well, what happens is when you create that activity, over to the right of it, you have to associate note actions. So what sort of note would I add? What sort of note action would I choose that would trigger activity towards this goal? That's how you set up those particular activity goals. You can create new goals if you'd like. You'll notice there's that space down below. You can add anything at all and then associate the appropriate note. I know that's a lot of information that we've covered in a short period of time, and I think we might have a minute or two for a couple of questions.
Yep, we absolutely do. In the last 3 minutes here, we'll see how many questions we can get through. So the first one for you, Lana, is, how can I manage contacts that I enrolled into NPS? I want to see a list of the contacts that I haven't yet enrolled into NPS.
Great question. So on the contact list, there's actually a column, and it's called Enrolled in NPS. Let's find that. I already have it in my view. So I have the ability to look at that column. Here I have it over on the far end. I would be able to filter it to determine who is enrolled, or if I want to see everyone that is not enrolled. If I want to look at everyone that's not enrolled, I'd have the ability then to come back, select these records, take the action to enroll them. The other thing I just quickly want to mention, because I think it ties into this question, is that something we didn't talk about is what we call NPS opt-out. And it is as it sounds. The field shows whether or not your contact has clicked on that unsubscribe link in your email. So let's quickly look at that. You see there's the NPS opt-out. So that at least gives you a good sense to know who may or may not, here it is, have opted out. Either true they have or false they have not. Good question.
Awesome. Thanks, Lana. And why don't we even get one last question in here? So on the subject of NPS, will my contacts receive multiple surveys from me? For example, if I have it set up to go out quarterly, will they receive a quarterly survey?
Yes. In that case, they would receive the survey every quarter. And this gives your contact the opportunity to submit a new score for you.
Awesome. And I think that'll do it for questions today. So we'll go ahead and close out the webinar. For any questions that we didn't have time to cover during the presentation or during the Q&A section, we'll follow up on those via email. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.